Punjabi Hari Jai. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Manachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Your Haribo. Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mahyam Gadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva niruktamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye nashtaprayeshva bandreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Okay, good morning everyone. Hare Krishna. Dobar Yutro, Jandobari. Suprabhatam. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 14, verse number 34. Yes, okay. Ideal family life. Wow, imagine that. Okay. Pātraṁ tvatra niruktam vai. Pātraṁ tvatra niruktam vai. Kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ. Kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ. Harir evaika urvīśa. harir evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram, pātraṁ tvatra niruktaṁ vai, kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, harir evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram,
kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram, pātraṁ niruktam vai, kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, harir evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram,
pātraṁ niruktam vai, kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ,
kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, harir evaika urvīśa,
yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram,
yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram,
pātraṁ niruktam vai, kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, harir evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram,
pātraṁ niruktam vai,
kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ, harir evaika urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ vai cara-acaram. Right. Pātram, the true person to whom charity must be given, to but atra in this world, niruktam decided, vai indeed, kavibhiḥ by learned scholars, pātra-vittamaiḥ who are expert in finding the actual person to whom charity must be given. Harir, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eva, indeed. Ekaḥ, only one. Urvī-īśa, O King of the earth. Yat-mayam, in whom everything is resting. Vai, oh, from whom everything is coming. Cara-acaram, all that is moving or non-moving within this universe. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. O King of the earth, It has been decided by expert learned scholars that only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, in whom all that is moving or non-moving within this universe is resting, and from whom everything is coming, is the best person to whom everything must be given. Purport. Whenever we perform some religious act in terms of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, we must perform it according to the time, place, and person. Kala, desha, pātra. Narada Muni has already described the desha, which means what? Place. And kala, which means time. The kala has been described in verses 20 through 24, beginning with the words ayane vishuve kuryat vyatipate dina kshaye. And the places for giving charity or performing ritualistic ceremonies have been described in verses 30 through 33, beginning with sarangsi pushkaradini kshetran yarhasritani uta. Now, to whom everything must be given is decided in this verse. Harir, evaika, urvīśa, yan-mayaṁ, vai, cara-acaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, is the root of everything, and therefore he is the best pātra, or person, to whom everything must be given. In Bhagavad Gita it is said, Bhoktaram yajña-tapasam sarvalokamaheshvaram savidam sarvabhutanam gyatvam shantim richati. Very good. You know everything. If one wants to enjoy real peace and prosperity, he should give everything to Kṛṣṇa, who is the real enjoyer, real friend, and real proprietor. It is therefore said, and now comes a famous verse from Bhagavatam 4:31-14, Yata taror mula nishechanena tripyanti tatskanda bhujopashaka prano baharacha yatendriyanam tataiva sarvarhanam achyuteja. By worshipping or satisfying achyuta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, one can satisfy everyone just as one can water the branches, leaves, and flowers of a tree simply by watering its root, or as one satisfies all the senses of the body by giving food to the stomach. Therefore, a devotee simply offers everything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead to receive the best results of charity, religious performances, sense gratification, and even liberation, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And so ends Srila Prabhupada's purport. This second verse that he quotes, Yata taror mula nishechanena. Prabhupada also tells, I think, this story of the senses going on strike. They resent that all of the food goes to the stomach. And so one day they strike, they go on strike. And they say, okay, we're not going to cooperate. And their strike does not last very long, because they realize in a short time that they're unable to maintain themselves because they're not getting any nourishment at all. We had devotees in Switzerland make little dramas to perform this event, this strike event. So we had 2 or 3 groups of devotees perform, and in each case, the striking senses all end up collapsing on the ground. We had embodied senses. We had someone playing the eyes, someone else the ears, someone else the nose, etc. And after a short time, they were all on the floor like this, you know. It's a fun little drama, a little sketch you can create. And one of the things I'm encouraging is that devotees create little sketches. They can be done semi-improvisationally or improvisationally. We also did an improvisational sketch some months ago. It was Nrsimha Chaturdasi. We were in Ljubljana, Slovenia, and I invited one devotee to play the part of Hiranyakashipu, and I told him, "You please stand here and raise your arms in the sky and stand on your toes. Now stay that way." This is Hiranyakashipu doing austerity. And then we had 2 devotees become ants to crawl around Hiranyakashipu. So they were crawling around Hiranyakashipu. He was trying to keep his hands in the air, trying to keep himself on his toes. And then we had Lord Brahma come, and Lord Brahma spoke with Hiranyakashipu, who by this time was really having trouble standing like this and so on. Anyway, it was a fun way of reenacting the pastime. Actually, this reenacting, of course, goes all the way back to the gopis. The gopis are the original improvisational theater artists. When they are feeling separation from Krishna in the forest, they're searching for Krishna. And they're searching and searching and searching, and they're asking all the plants and all the trees and the animals, "Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna?" And no one is answering them. And finally, in desperation, what do? They start to, they can't help it but reenact Krishna's pastimes. And even one of the gopis at one point says, "I am Krishna." And she plays the part of Krishna. And in this way, they relieve their feeling of separation from the Lord. Right. Pātram. This is the key word in the verse. And it's emphasizing with the word vai. Vai is an emphasis word. So first was kala, and then was desha, and now is coming patra. And it may not be a big surprise to us that the patra, the receptacle, literally means receptacle, the person to receive all of what is being offered is identified as, in the verse, harir, and in the translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa. Well, someone might object and say, why does the translation say Krishna when the verse says Hari? And the answer would be that Srila Prabhupada is taking liberties which we can say are justified by the Bhagavatam as a whole and by the acharyas as a whole, and especially Srila Jiva Goswami. But in the verse is also kavibhiḥ pātra-vittamaiḥ. This is the instrumental case, plural. So kavi, we know, means a learned person, learned scholar. It also means a poet. And Lord Brahma is called the original Adi Kavi. He's the original poet, the original philosopher poet. Poetry and philosophy, they go together, especially in the Bhagavatam. And these poet philosophers referred to here are pātra-vittamaiḥ. So there's in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, sarvasya chaham riddhi sanivishta matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. And then vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyaha vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. So vedavit, Krishna is telling us who is the knower of the Veda himself. He is Vedavit. So here we have pātra-vit, knower of patras, knower of vessels, knower of pots, knower of receptacles, but knower of persons who are recipients is the idea. But here it's not just pātra-vit, it's pātra-vittamaiḥ, the best knower. There's pātra-vit, pātra-vittara, and pātra-vittamaiḥ. Pātra-vittara would mean the better knowers, and pātra-vittamaiḥ would mean the best knowers. So, like uttama, purusha uttama, means the best of persons, the super best of persons, Krishna. And so these kavis who are learned, Narada speaking, he's saying, I'm not just saying that Hari is the best. All these kavis who are pātra-vittamaiḥ, they are saying it. And so he's making it, he's saying it in a very strong way, that one person, harir eva, only Hari. And then he says, ekaḥ, this one only is the patra, the one who is to receive. Well, okay, but someone might doubt still. Yes, it says, Narada Muni says this, and maybe others are saying this, but there's others who say other things. Others will say it's Lord Shiva. Others will say it's Durga. Others will have other ideas. And of course, the atheists will say, no, there's no patra. There's no recipient. I'm the recipient. Ishvaroham ham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. As Krishna says in the Gita, making fun of the demons, imitating the demons. So I thought what we can do for just a few minutes is to think about the subject of interpreting Shastra. Now, the word interpretation is one which Srila Prabhupada used many times in a negative sense. He would say, do not interpret. And in one place, within the same sentence, or two sentences, he says, do not misinterpret, do not interpret. So which is it? What I want to suggest is, usually, I think it's safe to say, when Srila Prabhupada says, do not interpret, he means do not misinterpret. But interpretation, what is interpretation? It means deriving meaning from something. When you're driving a car and you come to a stop light, a signal, there's red, yellow, and green, and there's a convention to interpret those colors to mean something. So when it's red, everybody understands this means stop, and I am correctly interpreting if I stop. And I'm either ignoring or I'm misinterpreting when I just keep going. And then the police will come and stop me, or I'll have an accident because, yeah. So that's interpretation. And that's interpreting without words. If there's a stop sign and it says stop, I might read the word stop and understand that those letters together means such and such. How do I know it means that? I've learned that from, from parents, from everyone in the society. If it would have, instead of Latin characters on the stop sign, it would have Chinese characters, right? We'd look at it and maybe take it to mean stop, since it's on a sign which usually means stop. But it might mean something else, who knows? We may not be readers of Chinese. The point is that we are interpreting. When we read, we are interpreting. And how to interpret is a major subject which even has a fancy term for it, namely hermeneutics. The word hermeneutics is a little bit scary for some of us, and some even become angry if we use this word because, well, Srila Prabhupada never used this word. But he didn't use a lot of words in the English language, which I don't believe means that we should remove them from the English language. They're there for a reason. They're useful. They help us, and they can be used for convenience of communication. It came to the concern of the ISKCON organizational body called the Governing Body Commission some years ago that we have challenges when it comes to interpreting and not misinterpreting the writings of Srila Prabhupada. Various challenges are there. This is a bigger topic I won't go into now, but what I wanted to say is that as a result, at one point they commissioned a group of devotees, scholars, called the Shastra Advisory Council, of which I'm a part-time member, to come up with a system by which to understand how best we can interpret Srila Prabhupada's books when there are problems to interpret. And what we produced out of quite some deliberation, discussion, and extensive writing was a 284-page book, which is a handbook to help us in the practice of hermeneutics of Srila Prabhupada. Some of you may have taken this course. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so you all already know all about this. So, but what I wanted to do is to focus on one of the 40 tools which we identified that can help. What is a tool? A tool is, if you want to pound a nail into two boards to make them go together, it's a good idea if you have a hammer. So a hammer is a tool which can function for a very specific purpose. And other tools are for other purposes. So we came up with 40 tools, along with 24 principles, along with 6 qualifications for practicing hermeneutics. So this is tool number 20. 6 criteria to know the main import and conclusion of a work of Shastra. There's a technical term for this. It's tatparya lingas. There are 6 of them. And this is not something we invented. This is from the Vedanta tradition, which borrows it from the Mimamsa tradition. So Purva-mimamsa and Uttara-mimamsa. Uttara is Vedanta. They borrowed, so to say, from the Purva-mimamsa tradition. And so I thought we could just briefly go through these, if you would like. Shall we do this? Because what is the connection with the verse? The connection is, how do we know that Hari is the only pātra, the only recipient for charity, sacrifice, and so on, for dharma, artha, kama, moksha? How do we know it? We know it from the Bhagavatam. How do we know it from the Bhagavatam? This is how it's analyzed according to this tatparya lingas. Okay, so there are 6 of them, and the first of these is, what does this text say in the beginning and what does it say at the end? What is the beginning and what is the end? Upakram upasanghara. And so Jiva Goswami identifies verses in the beginning and at the end of the Bhagavatam, not always exactly in the beginning and exactly at the end, but near the beginning, near the end, which indicate what is the subject of the Bhagavatam. As I remember, Jiva Goswami takes the verse Ete Changsa Kala Pungsa Krishna's tu Bhagavan Svayam as the essential verse in the beginning, and another verse elsewhere. But in our book here, in a more general sense, Dhruta Karma wrote one article explaining these, and he is identifying statements by Srila Prabhupada. So in the sort of totality of Srila Prabhupada's writings, quoting from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 24, talks with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. So Srila Prabhupada said that the impersonal Brahman is dependent on the Supreme Personality is also stated in the Hayashirsha Pancharatra. Hayashirsha Pancharatra? Yes. In every other Vedic scripture, such as the Upanishads, whenever there is talk of the impersonal Brahman in the beginning, the Supreme Personality is finally established at the end. Perhaps Srila Prabhupada here was thinking of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, which is famously identifying a supreme person as the worshipable object, although generally the Shvetashvatara Upanishad is considered to be identifying Shiva as the supreme person, but that's another topic. Or in a room conversation, Vyasadeva has given Krishna's pastimes in the 10th canto of Bhagavata. 9 cantos are devoted for understanding Krishna, beginning from Janmadyasya Yataha, Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.1.1. So he's pointing out this beginning in this case. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Okay, going to the second. So this is all quoting one verse. Let's see if I can remember it. Upakrama abhyaso apurvata palam. And then artavado papati cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. Nirnaye. So the second point is abhyasa, which just means repetition. Abhyasa can also mean practice, which we do repeatedly. So we chant Hare Krishna repeatedly. That is abhyasa. And so this verse we're reading today could be one example of this. That, yes, again, how many times in the Bhagavatam it says in one way or another that Hari is the Lord, is the Supreme Lord. Then, after this, the third of these lingas, these ways of understanding the deeper meaning of something, is apurvata. What is apurvata? It is that which is unique or unobtainable otherwise in other texts. So there's something unique about the Bhagavata and its content. And we might want to say what's unique in the Bhagavata. I don't know what example is given here. Let's look for it. Okay. Bhagavata, no. Okay, he takes from Bhagavad Gita 1.1 purport. Quoting Prabhupada, one will find in the Bhagavad Gita all that is contained in other scriptures, but the reader will also find things which are not to be found elsewhere. That is the specific standard of the Gita. Prabhupada also gives the example of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna showing Arjuna the universal form. This is something unprecedented, you can say. Or, he says in one Bhagavatam lecture, Vasudeva Katha means Krishna, to hear about Krishna. Krishna has many activities. In the world, there are many scriptures. Undoubtedly, they accept God. But there is no information of God's activities. That is the difference between Srimad-Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So like that. So that was the third. So we had upakrama and upasanghara. These go together, the beginning and the end. And I should mention also that this can be done, you can take the beginning and end of a scripture, you can take the beginning and end of a chapter, if you want to consider what is the meaning of this particular chapter. And so on, all of the 6, you you can take a smaller portion of scripture and consider these 6 elements in relation to them. So anyway, upakrama and upasankhara, then there's repetition, then there's apurvata, what is not found elsewhere, then 4th, the results of the knowledge explained in the text. That's phala. Phala means fruit. And some examples of this are, let's see, a lecture on Bhagavatam 1.3.29, Srila Prabhupada, Los Angeles, October 4th, 1972. Janmaguhyam bhagavato ya etat prayato naraha sayang pratar grinan bhaktya dukkha gramat vimuchyate. Translation: whoever carefully recites the mysterious appearances of the Lord with devotion in the morning and in the evening gets relief from all miseries of life. So what is the fruit in this case? Freedom from all miseries of life. How do we get it? Reciting Bhagavatam morning and evening, right? Okay, then artavada. Artavada means what is glorified throughout the text. So again, that would be rather obvious in this case, the Lord and his devotees. And as an example, we have, yes. Do you want to hear an example of this?
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Okay. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.9 purport: the root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of the Puranas. He has certainly, as a matter of course, given descriptions of the glories of the Lord, Sri Krishna, but not as many as given to religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These 4 items are by far inferior to engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Sri Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference, and still, instead of giving more importance to the better type of engagement, namely devotional service of the Lord, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus he was despondent. In other words, he was writing Puranas, he was writing Mahabharata, and Narada is basically saying to him, "You've been wasting your time, sir. You should be glorifying the Lord." And so he does. He compiles the Bhagavatam, in which artavada, the glorification, is clearly about the Lord and devotional service and the devotees. And finally, we have logical support. Upapatti, translated as logical support, it can also just mean reasoning in general, and that which is convincing. So then for this we have, Drutakarma says, I could not find any statement of Srila Prabhupada making use of upapatti in the sense of logical support. But there are quotes showing he is aware of the principle, namely that the meaning of a text can be understood by considering the conclusions supported by logic in the text. And then he quotes Adi Lila chapter 7, 106 from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shall I read this? Why not? According to learned scholars, there are 3 different sources of knowledge, which are called prasthanatraya. According to these scholars, Vedanta is one of such sources, for it presents Vedic knowledge on the basis of logic and sound arguments. In the Bhagavad Gita 13.5, the Lord says, Brahma Sutra Padaischaiva Hetumadbir Vinishchitai. Understanding of the ultimate goal of life is ascertained in the Brahma Sutra by legitimate logic and argument concerning cause and effect. Unquote. Therefore, the Vedanta Sutra is known as Nyaya Prasthana. The Upanishads are known as Shruti Prasthana, and the Gita, Mahabharata, and Puranas are known as Smriti Prasthana. Now that's interesting that Prabhupada includes Mahabharata and Puranas together with Gita. Usually it's only Bhagavad Gita that's included in the Smriti Prasthana, strictly speaking of Vedanta discourse. Anyway, all scientific knowledge of transcendence must be supported by Shruti, Smriti, and a sound logical basis. That's quoting from Chaitanya Charitamrita purport. Okay, so what have we learned? There's one way, this is one tool out of 40 in this program of how to understand, how to properly understand, and how to, I would say, move our ways of understanding Shastra upward through the modes of nature to transcendental interpretation. A lot of interpretation done by devotees tends toward rajasic or even tamasic interpretation. And what happens with such use of Shastra is they misuse the tools. If you have a hammer, if you're a qualified carpenter, you know very well how to use a hammer and how not to use a hammer. The example Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur gives of this, you may know the story of the veterinarian and his apprentice. The veterinarian is called to someone whose horse is choking on a melon. And so he's called, quick, 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 otherwise my horse is going to choke to death. So the veterinarian sees what is the problem. He takes a hammer and pounds on the neck of the horse to break up the melon in such a way that the horse can swallow the melon and breathe. And the veterinarian's apprentice is seeing this, and then decides, okay, now I know how to help horses, and he opens his own veterinary shop, and whenever he's called to help someone who has a sick horse, he takes a hammer and he pounds the hammer on the neck of the horse. And this is, of course, causing problems, not solutions. And the word gets back to his master, complaints, and the master calls his apprentice, "What are you doing?" And the apprentice says, "Well, I'm just doing what you did." So he's interpreting, right, what the master has done, but is he interpreting or is he misinterpreting? In this case, he's misinterpreting, and it's causing havoc. So interpreting is an art and a science, and there's much that we can learn on how to do it within Srila Prabhupada's books. And so really all of what has been compiled in this literature, but systematized, in this book of hermeneutics that the Shastra Advisory Council put together, it's all based on Shastra. It's all based on Srila Prabhupada's writings directly, sometimes drawing from other, broadly speaking, Vedic texts in order to support what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Right, so these are some points just to get back to why is Hari the only pātra? Well, read the Srimad-Bhagavatam and find out why, in a sense. And why does Srila Prabhupada write Krishna in his translation? Well, again, read the Bhagavatam and read, it could well be, I would have to look, but it could well be that in one or another of the commentaries to this verse, they identify Hari as Krishna. But even if not here, Hari is identified as Krishna in so many other instances. Pātram. So, what to do with our practices? Give it all to Krishna. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam yat-mayam man shantim richati. You want peace? You'll get peace if you understand yat-mayam, that Krishna, Hari, if you prefer Hari, is these three things. He is the bhoktri, the bhoktaram. He is the enjoyer of what? Of yajna and tapasa, of austerities. Can also be taken as the austerities of yajna. He's also the Maheshvara, not just the Ishvara, but the Maha-Ishvara of what? Sarvaloka. Sarvaloka can be taken as all realms, all everywhere. Could also be taken as all people. Loka means people, persons. And Suhridam, he is the good friend, Suhrit, of who? Huh? Sarvabhutanam, yes. Not just some, but of all beings. Sarvabhutanam. So, gyatva, if we know that, if we understand that, then Shantim Richati. One will be peaceful. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Shanti, that sounds boring. Too much Shanti. We don't want Shanti. You want Shanti? Yes. Shanti is square one of spiritual life. Then there's Shantarasa, there's Dasya-rasa, right? There's, what's next? Sakya-rasa, then Vatsalya, then Madhurya. And all of the rasas are serving Madhurya rasa. And so all of this is leading to 10th canto Bhagavatam. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Yes, Rajendra.
I'm wondering if there is even a higher truth, or maybe you already explained it. Okay.
I'm wondering if there is even a higher truth, or already explained it, because there is a verse in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto, Prabhupada mentioned it 2 times, Shrutim apares mitim itere. And it means others may study the Shrutis or the Vedas, but we don't do so. We worship Nanda Maharaj. Because in his courtyard, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is playing.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
You say something to this, it compares to that what you already explained.
Yeah, thank you. That's an interesting possible counter-statement. The fact that it's stated in Shastra, however, in the Bhagavatam, it makes it a bit of a paradox. And also, when we speak of Shastra, we understand 3 components, sadhu, guru, and Shastra. And in this case, we could understand this statement is being made by the residents of Vrindavan, so they are the sadhus. We take them as sadhus. So sadhu shastra guru vakya hridaye koryo aikya satatam bhasibo prema majje, says Narottam Das Thakur. I pray that the words, the vakya of the sadhus, the shastra, sadhus, guru, and shastra will become an aikya, a singularity, a clear message in my heart. Hridaye korya aikya. And the result of that, and that's interesting too, that brings it back to one of the elements of this Shat Lakshanam is pala. So, Hridaye koryo aikya satatam bhasibo prema majje. The result of hearing from these 3 and forming a unity in my heart is that I will float bhasibo in prema, in love. I will be swimming in love. He's anticipating, I will be swimming in love. So another issue it brings up is what constitutes Shastra. And Jiva Goswami dedicates the entire first part of his Shat Sandarbhas, the 6 Sandarbhas. Why did I say 8? The 6 Sandarbhas. The first one, the Tattva Sandarbha, is simply determining which Shastra he's going to base the remaining discourses on, namely the Bhagavatam. So he does a process of elimination by which he identifies the Bhagavatam as the best of Shastra to take as authority. But coming back to your verse, we don't care about Shruti and Smriti, we only care about Krishna playing in the yard of Nanda Maharaj. That's stated in the Bhagavatam. So that's a bit of a paradox. And yeah, it's a similar thing to, of course, Krishna's statement in the Gita at the end saying, Sarva Dharman Pratyaja, give it up and just surrender to me. Or Raghunath Das Goswami in his Manashiksha saying, Na dharmam, shruti gana niruktam, kila kuru, vraje radha krishna prachura paricharyam, iha tanu. He says, don't do this dharma and don't do adharma. Don't worry about dharma and adharma. Shruti gana niruktam. niruktam, that was in our verse, which is delineated, determined in Shastra. Braje Radha Krishna prachura paricharyam iha tanu. Just worship Radha and Krishna in Braja. But sachi sunum nandishvarapati sutatve guruvaram mukundam preshtatve smarapadam majasram mana. O mind. He's addressing his mind. My dear mind. Just worship Radha and Krishna and consider Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be none other than Krishna, and consider your guru to be none other than one who is very dear to Krishna. So it's the whole package. In that context, he's saying, na dharmam, na adharmam, etc. Is that okay? Yes. Venuya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the lecture. I know we are over the time, but I have two questions if possible. I've heard yesterday a lecture from Srila Prabhupada on the nectar of devotion, where he said, when we have desires, that indicates that we are in contact with the three modes of material nature. And the purport of verse 1425 in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains how a person should be who transcends the three modes of material nature, Prabhupada says we should not desire to get out of the body, and we should not desire to enjoy the body.
Yeah.
And my question is, how can I become really desireless and to stay in the neutral position and to be at the same time enthusiastic and determined in devotional service?
That's pretty much the exact same question. The one question that I directly asked Srila Prabhupada when he came to Schloss Rettershof. And he gave a lecture in the evening on Bhagavad Gita 2:14, chapter 2, verse 14, and at the end of the lecture he invited questions, and I asked, how can we give up material desire? How can I asked, how can I give up? I didn't say how can we. I said, how can I give up material desire? I mean, you've added and be enthusiastic. Prabhupada said, no desire. Desire only for Krishna. And then he elaborated, and his elaboration was quite long. It's been transcribed, it's there, I think it's on the Veda page. But basically, he kind of summarizes to say, therefore, engage in Krishna's service, and then he gave a few examples of how one might engage in service. You can clean the temple floor for Krishna, and you can cook for Krishna. He elaborated quite a bit about cooking for Krishna, or particularly offering to Krishna, and how Krishna really does accept our offering. He really emphasized that point. But he also said, you can drive a car for Krishna. Now, for me, that was deeply significant, because at the time, my service was temple driver. And although we don't gamble, I would be willing to bet that no one told that to Srila Prabhupada in advance, that I was the temple driver, because there were so many devotees and so many services, and I was just one of so many brahmacharis doing so many services, and why would it matter? Why would that come up, you know? But it seemed as if Prabhupada knew that I was, because he said, you can drive a car for Krishna. Yeah. So I think the seed, the point is there. Prabhupada, he said, no desire, desire only for Krishna. And many times he would say, you cannot give up desire. Desire is always there. It's simply a matter of redirecting desire. And often he would use this expression to dovetail, which is a bit odd perhaps in other languages than English. But in English it has a very specific meaning for carpenters. A dovetail joint of two pieces of perpendicular wood make a very strong connection. It's where the two pieces are put together and sort of wedged. I'm sure Rajendra Kumar knows what I'm talking about. They used to build furniture this way. Now they make it all in a cheaper way. But the point is, it's a very strong connection. It's yoga. It's strong. So dovetail, he's saying, dovetail your desire in the service of Krishna. So he's saying, don't throw away your desire. That's not going to be possible. But dovetail it. Find a way to engage it in Krishna service. And that, Krishna says in the Gita, is an art. Yoga karmasu koshalam. What is it? Buddhiyukto jahatiya ube sukrita duskrite tasmat yogaya yujasva. Yoga karmasu koshalam. But it's an art that, like any art, takes practice to become expert at. And it takes a lot of reflection. How is it that I'm really engaging so that my desire is firmly dovetailed in Krishna and doesn't deviate, doesn't go to something else? Yeah, that's some thoughts.
Thank you very much. And the second question...
Oh, second question, okay.
Connected to this, when I really want to fulfill Krishna's desires, but I encounter my limitations, also physically, mentally, or I think I'm not able to do this, I'm not qualified. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, I'm the ability in man. How can I realize more that Krishna is the ability in man and have faith in this?
How to have faith in your own understanding of your ability being Krishna?
No, that Krishna says, I'm the ability, and I have a task, and I think, if I'm able to do this, Krishna says, I'm the ability, and you are not doing this, I'm doing
right.
this.
Well, sometimes he may be giving you more ability and sometimes less. He may be giving someone else more ability at a given time. In the end, all of our abilities of this physical body and mind are going to dissipate. They're going to become less and less for the most part. And then we have to become more and more able to accept that we in these bodies are not capable of certain activities, certain services. So I think part of everything that we do, whatever engagement we have, is first of all recognizing there's always a fault in what we do. Sahajam karma konteya sadosham api natyajet. Don't give up your duty just because there's a fault in it, Krishna says. So recognize there's a fault and acknowledge and accept that there is incompleteness, imperfection, incapacity, shortage of capacity or whatever, and celebrate that Krishna is the one who has unlimited capacity for unlimited creation of unlimited universes and on and on. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Thank you for going over the time.
Okay, it's getting late, so whoops. Okay.
You explained that there's a positive way to use interpretation. Is there also a positive way to use our ability of speculation?
Yes, Srila Prabhupada made a distinction between mental speculation and philosophical speculation. And he said, the way Prabhupada put it is, philosophical speculation is pursuing the absolute truth with the aim, in a positive sense, of accepting the order, accepting the authority, I would say, of Sadhu Shastra Guru. So you start out, your starting point is this acceptance, and you're trying to understand. And in your process of trying to understand, sometimes you may say, well, maybe it means like this, maybe it means like that. Let us consider that as a possibility. Let's explore. And Shastra has depth of meaning. And etavan eva jigyasya tattva jigyasunatmana anvayav yatarekavayam yat sarvatra sarvada. The fourth of the Chaturshloki verses says, pursue the absolute truth in all circumstances, in all times, everywhere and every when, everywhere and at all times. And Shastra is unlimitedly deep. You can keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's the process of interpretation. As you know more and more of Shastra, you can more clearly get the picture of what is an appropriate interpretation in a particular circumstance. Desha kala patra. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
I have one technical question. We heard in the purport Dharma, atra, karma, moksha, liberation. Sometimes the word mukti is used.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between moksha and mukti?
Generally not, but moksha seems, it's a question of context, and my sense of it is that moksha is used in the context of dharma, artha, kama, moksha, where moksha is about final liberation, and mukti may or may not be final liberation. It may mean freedom from X, Y, or Z. So it could be a more diminished sense, but I may be wrong. That's just my sense of it. I think we've come to a happy conclusion now. Yes, thank you all for so patiently sitting and listening. Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev Ratayatra tomorrow in Trier ki jai, Gaur Premanande.